Alright, so now we've looked at adding whatever colours we want to our CSS. We're going to change direction a little and look at positioning. Now so far you probably will have noticed that every paragraph tag and every div just appears directly below the previous one. Quite often that might be what you want, but perhaps we want this green box here to appear on the right and the left box to appear over here on the left where the green box currently is. How would we achieve that? Well, we do it using floats, and it's actually pretty simple. So first off, I'm just going to change the width of our two divs. Oh, I've lost my color somehow there. There we go. Just so that one's a little wider and this one is a little narrower. So I'll make them both 200 pixels so we can see more clearly where they've been moved to. So first off, let's say we want this green box to appear on the right over here. Let's give it a go. All we do is we take our first section and add in the styles float right. There we go. And let's take a look, see what effect that has. There we go. So that floats the green box to the right there. And you can see that if we expand the page, it floats all the way to the right of the page, however wide it is. Now what happens if we float it to the left? Let's take a look. We're now more or less back where we started, but without this default margin that we had in place. So there's now no gap between the two blocks. So what if I wanted the green box to be to the left of the blue box? Well, all I do there is float the blue box left as well. And there we go. So you can see the floats come one after the other, but everything that's floated left will be aligned to the left of the screen. Similarly, if we took the second section now and floated it right, what impact do you think that would have? All right, hope you got it. It will simply align it to the right of the screen. So hopefully that's reasonably straightforward. We've got floating to the left and floating to the right. What happens, you might be wondering, if we combine elements that are floated with elements that aren't floated? Let's find out. So if we add a paragraph tag, this paragraph is not floated. So have a quick guess, where do you think it's going to end up? Let's find out. In the middle, bizarrely enough. So anything that's not floated is just going to put itself in the flow of the page. So if we have a look, if we bring this in, it will try and squeeze itself into the gap, and if it can't, it will put itself underneath the other floated element. So this is actually a nice way to have, say, a left menu and a right menu or something like that, and then some content in between. But what if we wanted our paragraph to appear underneath both of these boxes? Well, there's a fairly easy way to do that as well, and I'll show you what it is. We actually introduce a new div after the divs that have been floated, and we're going to give this a special style. So I'll give it a class of, and I'll call it clear float. And what this div is going to do is effectively clear all of the floats so that anything after appears below anything that's been floated up here. And the CSS that we want for that is dot clear float to select that particular div, and then we use clear, and then you can see we've got the option here. We can clear all the left floats if we want, or the right floats, but normally we want to clear both left and right floats. So if we do that, the paragraph now appears beneath both of these floated divs. And that's about it. So to summarize, if you float something to the left, it will appear to the left of any non-floated content. If you float something to the right, it will appear to the right of any non-floated content. And if you want something to appear underneath all of your floated elements, then you use clear both on a special div to achieve that. Now we'll be looking at floating in a lot more detail later on in the project at the end of this section, where we'll be recreating the BBC News website. That's as far as we'll go for now. Feel free to have a little play around and see how floating behaves. We have lots of floating elements interacting with each other, but we're now going to move on slightly from floats to the related aspect of CSS positioning.